Hey, welcome to Life in the Leadership Lane. I'm your host, Bruce Waller, where I'm getting to talk to leaders that are making a difference in the workplace and in the community. What are these leaders doing how did they get started? And what are they doing to stay in that leadership lane and accelerate and navigate along the journey? And so today, I have a very special guest. I'm getting ready to talk to my good friend, Tyra Bremer. Tyra is the executive consultant, director of business development for Stewart Leadership. She is a DallasHR volunteer leader, and she is a speaker. And I cannot wait to have a conversation with my good friend, Tyra. How you doing today, Tyra?
I'm really good, Bruce. Thank you again so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I am excited to see you. I was trying to think the last time I saw you, I think we had a Zoom meeting, but before that, we actually saw each other. I think we had a Starbucks coffee, and I just remember thinking, man, I really enjoy visiting with Tyra because our conversations were so meaningful around leadership. You're so passionate around leadership. What have you been doing over the last, 8-10 weeks during this COVID?
I think many people are trying to find their place, right? Are they surviving? Are they idling? Are they thriving? And I think every morning when I put my feet on the floor, the only thing that I know I have control of is my attitude. So it is, what am I going to do every single day to thrive? And I'll be honest with you, it has not been easy over the last few weeks, but you know what? It's just taking it as it comes. Making sure that I embrace my health, take care of myself, take care of my family, and continue to help and support others around me. So that's really all I can do is, what am I going to do today to have that thriving attitude and help others as well?
I love it. And Tyra and I met at the DallasHR leadership meeting, and so we're going to get into a little bit of that. But the first thing I want to do is I want the listeners and the viewers, I want them to learn a little bit more about Tyra and your story. Can you just share, how did you get started in your career and eventually into leadership?
Yeah, great question. Well, born and raised in Denver, Colorado, and just as many people, right, what you want to be when you grow up changes dramatically all the time. And so as I started thinking about my career and reflecting back what I wanted to do first, I actually wanted to be a professional dancer and an NFL cheerleader. That's what the first thing that I was striving to be. And then paths change, and then I wanted to be a journalist and a TV reporter. And ultimately, believe it or not, I ended up as an accountant. So all of these things shifts, and accounting was the path that I ended up choosing. And I'll be honest with you, it never was really fulfilling to me. It didn't get me excited. So I was always looking for other things to supplement. And so I, was an accountant and taught aerobics at the same time, so there were all of these things. Well, I relocated to Houston, Texas in the Woodlands in 2002. And I went to register with Robert Half. Many of your listeners today, I'm sure, know who Robert Half is, one of the world's largest and oldest staffing firms. And I went in for them to help me find a new career in the Houston area in accounting. And as I was sitting there talking with my recruiter, I stopped her and I said, wait a minute, tell me what you do. And she walked me through it, and I said, so you're telling me I can talk to accountants, I can talk about accounting, but I don't have to do it? And she said, yes. And I said, okay, that's the job that I want. That's what I want to do right there. How do I sign up, right? So I navigated really kind of the fast track of meeting with all of these people because it was a perfect match for me. I could help organizations solve their accounting problems by providing them an accounting talent, and I can impact people's lives by helping them find jobs and careers. And I ended up having a 14-year career with Robert Half, held numerous leadership positions, traveled from coast to coast, and Bruce, that's where I knew, and when I knew leadership was for me. I knew training, talent development, human resources, and being a leader is what got me the most excited. So through all of that, and then I relocated to Dallas in 2012, where I married my now wonderful and supportive husband, and a new opportunity fell in my lap. And Service King, which is a Dallas-based collision repair organization, brought me on board. And I'm so proud to say this, I was the first female vice president in company history. So that is something that I can carry with me, forever. And so very rewarding, and being a part of that organization's growth and in the L&D. So I'm vice president of talent development, learning and development. And we grew from around 1,500 employees to over 7,000 when I left there, and 500 people managers. So playing an integral role in developing those leaders, developing the team was just so extremely rewarding. And then to add a little personal touch to it, my husband and I adopted a brand new baby girl in October of 2019. And I was no longer with Service King, and I was trying to find, what's next for me. And as I was exploring different opportunities, nothing was checking all of those boxes, knowing that, I had this new baby girl, but I still had a passion for human resources and giving back. And I made the decision to start my own company. In 2018, I started my own human resource consulting company, and was absolutely loving it. And the beginning of last year is when my paths crossed again with Stewart Leadership. And I joined Stewart again, and haven't looked back since. Just to give you a little insight into why I picked Stewart and why that was okay for me. So Stewart Leadership is a consulting firm, but we provide custom human capital solutions for organizations. So leadership development, change management, high-performing team solutions, and so everything just aligned. And now, Bruce, with over 25 years of human resources experience in my pocket, I still have the same level of passion for helping people become their best selves and helping organizations thrive. So that's just, I guess, let's call it my movie trailer version of why and how I ended up where I am today.
I love that. I love that story. Now, when you relocated in 2002, I'm always curious because I am in the relocation industry. Was that hard for you? That time of your life?
Oh my gosh, it was disruptive, but it was exciting. And let me tell you why it was exciting. I grew up in Denver. I had never lived anywhere else. And I'll be honest with you, everyone that I tell that I moved from Denver, their first question is, why would you do that? And the answer is because I had never lived anywhere else. I'd never lived anywhere else, right? So it was an opportunity for me to spread my wings. And I will say one of the biggest things the biggest hurdles was not having a support system in Houston, right? So moving to Houston, it was making new friends. It was figuring all out. And I remember I relocated, it was right before my birthday. So it was right before my 30th birthday, I think. 28th birthday. It was forever ago. I was in my 20s, I think. But anyway, I remember spending my first birthday walking to Chick-fil-A because I didn't have a job yet. And I had a car and everything like that, but I'm just like, what am I going to do for myself today? It's Chick-fil-A, but it was a difficult time for me. But wow, now that I look at the support system I have, and I've made some of the best friends that I've had in my life.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I moved to Dallas when I was 28 years old, and I remember you don't know anyone. You're trying to build that support system. But yeah, when you look back, you're like, oh my gosh, that just going through that journey, that's what has made me who I am today. I want to stay with Stewart Leadership just for a minute. I know that you talked about the organization, human capital, helping with talent and shaping leaders. The question I have for you is, how would a company know? How would a company know that they need a Tyra or a Stewart Leadership type training? I mean, what's maybe one or two of the things that they might be going through that they say, you know what, we need to reach out. Stewart Leadership is an organization that can help us.
Mm-hmm. I think when you think about leadership development, if an organization is looking at their leaders and they're trying to figure out, how can I get my leaders to the next level?
Mm.
right? Because I think of leadership development, I don't think of leadership development as fixing someone, right? Leadership is not fixing someone, it's helping them become their best self. So if an organization sees, gosh, this person really has potential, whether they're an individual contributor or whether they're currently a leader now, they need help getting to that next level. Or they need help with just structure and understanding the behaviors of an exceptional leader. And no fault of their own, right? A lot of us earn our way up, within an organization by being strong performers. And I think sometimes we end up with a leadership team that they were once strong performers, but now they could be struggling to really embrace what leadership means, right? So if you have leaders or individual contributors that literally are high potential and have the ability to be more, that's one, let's just call key trigger to say, gosh, let's get them some help. And maybe the help isn't necessarily a development program. Maybe it's an executive coach or a leadership coach to help them navigate some things, right? So you could be a very well-established executive C-suite individual, but maybe it's time for some executive coaching to continue to invest and develop yourself, because that's what happens with the best leaders. So that's an example in leadership development. Also, taking a look at that from a team perspective, right? So sometimes you have a very good team. What can you do to help that team become a high-performing team? Right? How do you take your team to the next level? So it could be training, development, a really high-performing team. Maybe there's a teaming assessment. Let's figure out what our strengths are. How do we maximize that and grow and develop around each other? And then I would say to change management. So anything from, think about change that organizations go through. Maybe you've acquired a new company. Maybe you've merged with a new company. Maybe you have new processes, new procedures, new leaders, right? How do you assimilate in that place? So many things, from change to meeting high-performing teams to helping take your leaders to the next level. Those are some good examples of why someone or when someone could utilize an organization like ours or a professional like myself.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I was talking to Dustin Pascal just a few weeks ago, and I asked him about high performing teams and what makes a high performing team. And one of the things he mentioned is whenever the leaders are courageous enough to challenge each other, to challenge what they're doing, to challenge the status quo, to ask questions along the way. And when they do that to him, that means that they really care. They really care. And when they're not challenging, they're just going with the flow. He questioned, like, do we really care about what we're doing? And I thought that was absolutely fantastic. So I think that's very important. When you talk about leadership, I was thinking from an individual perspective, but yeah, the team, having a high performing team, that's so important.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fantastic. So, okay, I want to know. So I know you mentioned that you asked the person in the woodlands, what does a recruiter do? And I thought that was fantastic. I would love to hear. So I was talk to different people about, how did they get to where they are? And most of most leaders have a common thread, and that is they had help along the way. And so I was just curious if you have had any mentors that have made impact on you, and maybe what that looks like.
Absolutely. So, as I reflect back on my career, I have been so fortunate to work with some of the best leaders and just true world-class leaders. I think about Robert Half and, a gentleman by the name of Cecil Gregg and Phil Willingham come to mind. When I think about Service King, I think about Michael Devendorf, Michelle Freimeyer, Stu Crum. But literally, if I dig a little deeper and I really want to think about if I had to say there was one person that truly made an impact and helped me become who I am today, it was because of her perseverance, her passion, and her determination. And that was my mother. And, Agnes Medina is her name. And I'm going to take a second and tell you this story, because you're going to see why, I fight every single day. Maybe fighting isn't the word, but why I persevere every single day to be my best. So my mom actually was pregnant with me her senior year of high school from her junior high sweetheart. But she had always been in honors classes, and she actually had enough credits to graduate at semester. So she didn't have to finish her full pregnancy in high school. But listen to this. So she graduated at semester. She had me in March. She turned 18 in May. She married my father in June and started college in the fall and took me with her. Bruce, we didn't even own a car. We lived in poverty. We lived in a really tough part of town in Denver, and we took public transportation to college every single day. My mom bundled me up. And again, remember, we're in the winters of Colorado, right? So we're in the winter of Colorado, and she bundled me up. And she went to Colorado Women's College, which is part of DU, Denver University. And she went to school full time, graduated with 2 degrees. And she had help, right, from family and friends. But she went out there and she made it happen. And my mom always put her family first. But, whatever she needed to do to stay up late, to do whatever, to finish her education and provide for our family. So there's something about that perseverance that says, you know what, I can do it. And I think through all of my leadership struggles and changes in jobs and everything like that, I can look back at what she did. And I'm like, I can do this. This is nothing compared to what she did. So even though I've worked for some of the most, amazing world-class leaders, it was those behaviors, those untrainables that she had that I gained from watching her that I think truly made a difference in the leader I am today.
I love that. Thank you so
much. I can't believe I shared that story and didn't start crying.
I got to tell you, that was incredibly heartfelt, and I appreciate you sharing that story. I know that there's people out there that they need to hear that. And I mean, my mom's played a big role in my life too, so I can understand that. And leadership is not easy, is it?
Mm-mm. It is not.
It's not easy. And I know you have a baby girl and you're taking her on that journey too. And I think because your mom took you on that journey, now you're going to continue that. And
absolutely.
She's going to be a great leader right behind you. So I absolutely love that story. And I know that mentors make a difference. I always tell people, listen, either be a mentor or be a mentee. It doesn't matter. Just be one. Because when you have people around you, you can get better along the way. You can see what good looks like. You can see what not good looks like
absolutely
along the way as well. And so I appreciate that very much.
I think that was a good point you just made, Bruce, is that, as we work for different leaders, we do identify the ones and the behaviors that we do not want to replicate, but we're learning from those, right? You're learning from those as well. And it's not just all about the good traits. You're learning about the things, oh gosh, I won't do that sort of thing.
Yeah, great point. Well, and that's a great segue into one of the things I really wanted to talk about on our podcast today was you published an article recently for Stewart Leadership. I think I saw it on LinkedIn, and it was the 9 attributes of an inclusive leader. And I went through that. I thought, you know what, that is really, really good stuff. And I just wanted, first of all, what I wanted to know is what drove you to write that and publish that, number one. And then number two, can you just share these different attributes? I'm just going to kind of read them off and then I want you to just kind of talk a little bit about that. So these 9
Sure.
qualities of an inclusive leader are commitment, awareness, humility, curiosity, collaboration, cultural intelligence, empathy, fairness, and courage. So share a little bit about that, Tyra.
Yeah, absolutely. So, the recent months we've all been powerfully reminded on the importance of inclusive leadership. And I think for me, the reason why I did this is I needed to have the courage to do it. And I needed to truly understand, me too, right? What are the attributes of an inclusive leader? Because I was a little confused, I'll be honest with you. I was like, gosh, aren't exceptional leaders inclusive? But that's not necessarily the fact, right? I think that a lot of people forget there are special inclusive behaviors that make people, exceptional leaders. And so what I did is I set out to get some feedback. And I reached out to a few of our clients at Stewart Leadership to really set out and engage in what proved to be very heartfelt, emotional discussions on, gosh, what do they believe the attributes are of being, the behaviors of an inclusive leader? And what does that even mean? And how do we create an environment where our employees feel like they deserve to be there and that their voice matters? And as I mentioned, it's very heartfelt as you really dug in, but really what we ended up, the conclusion we ended up on is, it used to be that if you made a focus on diversity, which means you had a healthy blend of, different cultures, different races, different sexual orientations, religions, political beliefs, that many believe that if you had a mix of all of those people, you would have a high-performing team, check the box, right? But at the end of the day, that has not proven to be, that hasn't proven to work. Everyone needs to know that they deserve to be in that room and have a voice. So we started digging into what are those behaviors? And at the end of the day, we came up with these 9 attributes that you read off to the group. Again, but they're all what exceptional leaders should be doing, right? So these are just great reminders. It's not a new leadership model. It's not a new book on competencies, right? These are things that if you want to be an exceptional leader, these are different attributes that you should possess. And if you don't have them, be aware of them and develop these behaviors and these attributes, right? So again, these are all items and areas that we can all develop in ourselves. So I think, one of my favorites, right? So there's 9 of them, but my favorite one, because it tied to me even writing the article, was courage. And it was courage to challenge the status quo, courage to challenge myself, right? Courage to challenge any, biases that I may have, and to really dig deeper to understand. Because I think we all think we understand. And at the end of the day, when I started digging in, I didn't have the understanding that I thought I did. And so this was so extremely rewarding. But it all was about the courage. And also with an article like this, based on, the heightened sensitivity right now, it did take courage because I was putting myself out there to share my findings.
Yeah, that's great. Now, on these different 9 qualities, does a leader need to have all 9 of these qualities, or are these just qualities that you see in different leaders on the team?
I think my opinion and the opinion of the other clients that I worked with to identify these attributes is that you should have a healthy blend to create an inclusive environment. So when, let's spend a minute just kind of giving a high level overview of each of the attributes.
Okay, that's
so
good.
when we, and you're going to see, because it's 9, you'll be like, oh my gosh, I don't have time to develop 9 attributes. Do I have to go get an MBA in these attributes? It's really not. It really is about being aware of what they are and then making strides to improve in those areas. Yeah. So from a commitment perspective, it's just making the commitment to show that you genuinely care about diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? It's showing that, gosh, maybe what we have done in the past isn't the best, or maybe we haven't done anything in the past. So it's making a commitment. The next is awareness, and that really goes into yourself. It's your self-awareness, seeking feedback from others. I think as leaders, we spend a lot of time giving feedback, but we don't necessarily get feedback. But this feedback that you're doing in this space isn't necessarily like, how are my meetings? How are, how is my time management? It's things like, how do I make you feel? Right? So being aware, being self-aware of how you make others feel. And also acknowledging that even with the best of intentions, maybe the organization isn't doing everything they could, right? So being aware and then making the commitment to do that. And then humility. Inclusive leaders are humble about their capabilities. They own up to their mistakes. And that right there shows their team that they're human. And it's okay for them too to be human. And a curiosity. I think a curiosity to understand who's on your team, right? What do they like? What do they dislike? What do they, what do they believe in? I think is important. And yes, it is about the business and it is about the customer, but get to know your people. Show a curiosity for them. And then collaboration. Guess what? Some of the best ideas come from these diverse teams and cross-functional departments, but you have to show curiosity to gather that information and get some of the thoughts from others. And I think cultural intelligence is probably where I'd say as leaders, we all probably fall the most short. Because the first thing is, okay, what is cultural intelligence? I have no idea what cultural intelligence is. And it's actually just understanding how to, let me remove the word just. It's not just understanding. It is understanding, cross-cultural situations and making an effort to learn how even their understanding of other cultures might impact the way that they lead. So I actually, I found a website, and I'm going to share it with the listeners today. It's called the Cultural Intelligence Center. And it's online, and it offers a wide selection of books and complementary resources to help a leader or individual with their cultural intelligence. So that was actually a really great find as I was doing the research for this. And the last few that I'll jump into is empathy. Team members are looking for a leader that tries to understand their viewpoints, their experiences, listens, and has empathy. And fairness, treating everyone fair. That doesn't mean that everyone gets the same opportunities, right? Because you're going to have different hierarchy within the organization, but you want to be fair. And then the final piece is that courage, which was, the courage to put yourself out there, the courage to admit, the courage to have a voice, which is really, for me, the thing that I had to harness the most of to really dig in and put this article out there for others to learn from. And hopefully it'll help them.
Well, Tyra, I applaud you for putting this together and putting yourself out there. I think this piece is brilliant, and I am going to put this in the show notes so everybody has access to that, as well as the website that you mentioned, the Culture Intelligence Center, to be able to have resources for that. So that's great. I really, really appreciate that. I think that's going to help a lot of leaders. And speaking of leadership, I want to jump into another area of leadership, and that's what's known as volunteer leadership. I mentioned earlier we met at DallasHR Leadership Orientation meeting. We call it our workshop planning meeting back in, I guess, golly, was it in December? I mean, it seems like forever ago.
Yeah. I think we've had 14,072 Mondays since last December.
Exactly. But one of the things that really struck me about you, this was a memorable moment. I want to share this. And that is, so I was sitting at the table with you, and Deborah Avern was going through a session, and she asked everybody at the tables to close their eyes during the meeting, close their eyes and point your finger at who was going to be the leader, the facilitator of the group. And so our entire table closed their eyes and all fingers were pointing at you. And I said, you know what? I want to get to know her more. She is a leader. And that was my memorable moment. But
I forgot about that.
Oh yeah, that was
because I was like, oh, sorry. Sometimes I can really fill a room.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. No pressure. But I want to talk about volunteer leadership because you are busy, right? You're busy with Stewart Leadership. You're busy with baby girl. But now all of a sudden you're finding time to volunteer. So I would love to hear, number one, why did you decide to volunteer for DallasHR? Number two, Can you talk a little bit about the group that you're involved in? I believe that's career support, and how you're able to help others within the organization.
So in 2018, the summer of 2018, I was impacted by a 200-person RIF. And I found myself in totally unknown territory, right? Here I was without a job. And usually I've left a job for a job. That's always been my thing. But I really felt, I'll be honest with you, I felt my world was turned upside down, right? And I'm trying to find my way. And as I was sitting down, I was pulling myself together, trying to outline what my priorities are, where I wanted to focus. I was disappointed in myself, Bruce, because I had put volunteering and giving back on the back burner for probably 5 years. And I thought, shame on me. Shame on me. And I had made a commitment that day. I remember sitting here writing down, and I thought, I will never do that again. So I attended a few DallasHR meetings and met quite a few people, and I immediately, Bruce, knew that that organization was for me. But I made a commitment. I didn't just want to go to a meeting to go to a meeting. I wanted to really weave myself into the organization so that I could give back to the HR community, because I knew how it felt to be in transition, to feel lost, you know, in a place. And I wanted to be able to support people that were feeling that same way, because I got it. I totally understood. That's when I learned about the Career Support Committee. So the Career Support Committee works with, provides support and, you know, complementary resources to HR professionals that are either in between positions, right? They're in transition, or they're thinking about being in transition. It is an entire complementary group. We have monthly what we call job link meetings, which provide them with networking opportunities and learning opportunities to strengthen their job search, networking, and other skills. You know, we share leads with each other, opportunities. And for me, being able to understand the recruiting industry like I do, also understanding what it feels like to be vulnerable and put yourself out there, I felt that was the right place for me. And I would recommend, highly recommend, being a part of the Dallas HR organization, not just when you are in transition, right? Don't wait for that time. Be a part of the organization, because what you're going to find is that the support and the friendships that you build, like yours, will, like you and I have now, will really warm your heart. And these are going to be relationships that you will cherish for the rest of your life. So gosh, I can't even believe now it's been 2 years since I've been a part of the organization, and I haven't looked back. So rewarding and fulfilling, especially, again, it's brought people like you into my life as well.
Well, thank you. I always tell people it's more than networking. It's more than education. I mean, you build lifelong friends. You really do. So a question, someone that is currently in transition, they are looking for their next HR opportunity or business opportunity. Can they just come to a career support meeting? Do they need to be a member? How does that work?
Here's the great news about the Career Support Committee and JobLink. It is complimentary. It costs $0. All you need to do is go to the DallasHR website, and you can go career resources. You could find JobLink. Now, what I will say is, we understand when you are in transition, you are watching your finances, right? Every step of the way. So our ultimate goal is to help you network and find your new position and meet people to help expand your network. Now, we do have, to be a member of DallasHR, there is a fee, a membership fee, to become part of the organization. When you are in transition, it is extremely discounted. So when you go to the website, take a look at that. But again, you don't have to. We will support you at no cost.
Love it. Love it. That's where DallasHR adds tremendous value in the Dallas community. So thank you for sharing that. I know that there's probably some people out there that don't know much about Dallas HR, or may not even know about the career support opportunities. So I will also put that in the show notes so people can connect with you on that. I want to, we've talked about, leading teams. We've talked about high performing teams. I want to talk about leading you, Tyra. I want to talk about, we talked earlier, leadership. It's every day. There's no days off. It's not easy, but it's so rewarding. And one of the things I try to pull out for listeners and for the viewers is something from the guest, maybe a leadership practice that they have in their career. And so I was wondering if you could just share what's a day in the life of Tyra look like? A lot of people say, well, is it pre-COVID, post-COVID? I mean, I'm just talking about even today. What's your planning look like? Would you share that with us?
Absolutely. So the crazy thing is, Bruce, if you were to ask me that question 10 months ago, I would have had a different answer because I didn't have my beautiful baby girl. Right. And so,
that will change things.
Exactly. And so, being a new mother, having a career, balancing motherhood, and now balancing a pandemic, I'm going to be completely transparent with you, and I am trying to find my new norm. Yeah. I have some consistency, though, and then I'm going to share with you what I'm doing to help myself and kind of some key learnings as well. My consistencies are this. I stay true to my tagline, and I stay true to my values. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about those. So my tagline, this will not change. And whether this is daily, weekly, monthly, set goals, achieve greatness. And when I say achieve greatness, it's what do I need to do to continue to develop myself, right? So set goals, achieve greatness, experience growth. Okay. And the growth might be that I drank all the water I needed to that day, right? Now, from my values perspective, my values are built off of the word thrive. Okay. Now it is teamwork. Now, the reason I say teamwork, and that's just about your support system. So my teamwork might come from my husband. My teamwork might be reaching out to you, Bruce, to give me support because I'm excited about something or I'm having a tough day, right? So teamwork. Next is high performance. What am I going to do today to be a high performing person, right? And at the end of the day, that day might be I kept the baby alive. And that's okay. I'm going to celebrate that. Next, it's readiness for change. I need to be okay with change, be ready for it and adapt to it. And then it's innovation. So again, I'm building off the word thrive, right? Innovation. Sometimes I have to find new ways to do things. And that's okay. And V is value development. I need to make sure that I embrace new learnings and key things and challenge myself. And then the final piece is ethics always, right? Always do the right thing. Always be kind, okay? Now, from a timing perspective, how do I manage my time? I go into the week with a to-do list, which I'll be honest with you, with a 10-month-old girl, that can go out the window in 2 seconds, right? But I prioritize that to-do list, and before I put my head on my pillow every single night, I make sure I'm time blocked for the new day. Here's the thing, and again, I'm being completely transparent and vulnerable and putting everything out there. I don't have the secret sauce. And what may have worked for me, like I said, 10 months ago, is not working now. So I actually recently picked up a book that I have to make time to read my time management work, but it's How Successful Women Make the Most of Their Time by Laura Vanderkam, okay? And it talks about being a working mom because I realize that what I used to do is not working. And I think that's really my key learning out of all of this. And this would be my advice to any leader that's listening, is that the seasons in your life will change the way that you do things. And that's okay. But you need to say that's okay and reflect and find a way to change and find what works for you. But have your constants, right? What are your constants? What is your tagline? What is your value statement? What's your rally cry? What are your must-haves? So like one of my must-haves is I love to box. So how do I make sure that I get boxing in every single week, because that takes care of my health? And without my health, I cannot be as present as I want for my family, my daughter, my husband, or my career. So again, biggest lesson learned is I don't have the secret sauce, but I cut myself some slack and realize that every season there's going to be change, and that's okay as long as you recognize that and find innovative ways to make it happen and seek out support, friends like you, books, things like that to try and make it happen. So that answer might have been more confusing to everyone because it wasn't the secret sauce, but I think it's reality.
Well, what I like about your response there was that it's simple. And a lot of people think, oh, I need to do these big things to make big things happen. And really, it's all about the little things every day.
Mm-hmm.
So my three takeaways here are: we need to thrive, we need to time block, and we need to box.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I love that. You know what? I know there's going to be a lot of takeaways from this conversation. So I appreciate you just being transparent, being vulnerable. Because you're right. So when I wrote the book, Find Your Lane, it wasn't, hey, find your lane and you're successful the rest of your life. It was find your lane at that moment, at that season of your life. And it's time to find another lane. I'm still trying to find my lane in podcasting. And so I love that. I love how you shared the simplicity. And you mentioned the secret sauce. And here's what I say about that is, the secret sauce is really about having the system. And you have a system. I mean, you just sit there and said, okay, it's all about thrive and it's all about block. So you have these things you're doing. You're just trying to figure out, how do we incorporate that every day at this particular season? Okay, now I'm in a new season. How can I take that there? But it's all about having that system. And I think you do that well. So I really appreciate you sharing that. I'm curious, has anybody ever given you any advice that you today share with others because that advice has been so good for you?
Yes. The quote is this, and I'll tell you where it came from and how I've used it. It is, always keep your side of the coin shiny. When I was, I was probably 18 or 19 years old. I was a receptionist, and then I did accounts payable for an organization. And there were some not so great things going on in that organization. And I was the one that had found out about those. Again, remember, I'm a 19-year-old girl. And I was like, what do I do with this information? I don't know. I knew it was wrong. I knew right and wrong. And I remember going to our CFO at the time, who I had a great relationship with, and I was crying because I didn't know how to navigate this emotion. I knew this right and wrong, and I shared it with him. And he sat across from me, and he thanked me for sharing that with him. And he said there was some advice that someone had given him. He said, always keep your side of the coin shining. If I would have went and just walked away with that information, guess what? My coin is tarnished because I'm carrying around that knowledge. Right? And so as I continue to grow in my career, have new experiences, whether that be with, maybe there were challenges with a coworker or another leader, I always needed to make sure that I did the right thing, that I was kind, even at times where I was challenged to be kind, right? Or someone challenged me to do something that I didn't believe in. It was always keep your side of the coin shiny. And I can't even tell you how many times I've used that phrase as I've coached, amazing people that have worked with me and for me to help them navigate situations when they're having challenges with either decisions on what to do or even how to handle a situation with a coworker or other leader. And at the end of the day, it's always keep your side of the coin shiny.
I absolutely love that. Always keep your side of the coin shiny. Mm-hmm. Oh man, that's a quote we need to definitely capture. So this has been great. Oh my gosh, Tyra, we could go all day long. So for the last 5 or 10 minutes, we're going to go to the segment I like to call It's Time to Accelerate. And so I'm just going to ask you a few questions and we'll have some fun with this. My first question is, I know
sounds like I need a buzzer.
Yeah, right?
Answer.
So the first question, you just recently held up a book, so I'm curious. Would you rather read a book or listen to a podcast?
10 months ago, it was read a book. Now, again, remember, I'm adapting. It's listen to a podcast, and it's finding time. So the baby might be down at night, and I'm trying to get bottles ready for the next day, and I'm trying to do that development for myself. So now it's podcast.
I love it. How about favorite food? You got a favorite food?
Yes. I think where I hold the biggest place in my heart and stomach is pizza. And I'm talking thin crust pizza, like New York style, fold it, grease, cheese. But here's the thing. When it comes to pizza, I can eat the entire pie and not blink an eye. And I don't want a whole bunch of stuff, right? Maybe some pepperoni sausage, that's it. But I will, and people will be like, oh my gosh. Because by the way, I'm not very tall. I'm not, but I will own a pizza.
I love that. Hey folks, can y'all tell Tyra has passion? This is absolutely fantastic. How about, okay, so you have a lot going on, right? You're taking care of a baby girl. You're working. You're trying to level up. How about hobbies? Do you have any hobbies that you can just kind of get away to?
Yeah. Again, I've cut myself some slack, knowing that, my number one priority is keep baby alive, right? Keep baby alive, keep everyone fed. Boxing for sure. And then the next thing is cooking. I love to cook. And to me, there's nothing more rewarding than my husband saying, this is good. Aww. But I also think I've taken, the past few months, my baby's eating now. And I'm trying all of these new foods for her. And, whereas some others might be like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to start meal prepping for my 10-month-old. Well, I'm doing it and I'm loving it, And again, so as much as I loved my husband saying something, when she's sitting there and she's just scooping something in, that feels so good to me. So I love trying new recipes, whether it be for adults or now for a toddler. I have a true passion for cooking and I guess eating.
You're such a good mom. So what about vacation? Once this COVID stuff's over, is there a favorite place you like to go?
It's funny. I was having this discussion with someone the other day. We were talking about favorite place to vacation. And I've been so many places, but when I was asked that question a couple of weeks ago, I stated something that I never thought I would state, or I never made the connection. And that's Mexico. But let me tell you why. My husband and I took our first vacation to Riviera Maya, Mexico together. Okay. My husband proposed to me in Mexico. We chose our destination wedding in Mexico, and we went on our baby moon to Mexico, right? And so I hadn't noticed the connection until recently when I really started digging in. But obviously there are other places, beautiful places around the world that I've been to, but I love the memories that I have been able to connect in Mexico.
I love that. It's all about the connections. So we are down to the last question of the segment, and it's a final question. It's a question I've asked all of our guests, and I would love to ask you this question too, and that is, if 10-year-older Tyra came knocking at your door today, what would she be telling you?
It's actually a very simple yet powerful phrase, Bruce. and that is, you got this, girl. You got this, girl. As I think back of navigating a lot of the obstacles, just really through my career, obstacles and moments, being a new mother, all of these things, I think a really good reminder is very simple. You got this, girl.
I love that. I love it. It's simple and powerful. And Tyra, you're definitely driving in the leadership lane, my friend. So for the listeners and the viewers that want to get to know Tyra a little bit more, they want to find out a little bit more about DallasHR or Stewart Leadership, or even your speaking. We didn't even talk about that.
Right.
How can they connect with you?
I think one of the easiest ways is through LinkedIn. And it's crazy. There are no other Tyra Bremers on LinkedIn. So I'll do a quick spelling, but I know you'll have it in the notes as well. But it's Tyra and then Bremer, Bremer. So you can find me on LinkedIn. I will be, happy to reply, to connect, to even have virtual coffee, to share anything and get to know your listeners and the rest of our community out there. So
Yeah,
LinkedIn would probably be the best.
yeah, that's fantastic. And, I just now mentioned speaking. I wanted to mention to the listeners as well, if you would like to reach out to Tyra and learn a little bit more about the 9 different traits of an inclusive leader that we talked about, or you want her to speak on that, she can certainly connect with you and talk to you more about that as well. And so, listen, I appreciate you. I appreciate our partnership. I appreciate our friendship, what you're doing for career support at DallasHR, and just all the things you're doing to thrive. And I just want to let you know how much I appreciate you sharing perspective on the show today.
And from the bottom of my heart, Bruce, I appreciate you. I appreciate the friendship that we have built. You have become an amazing support and cheerleader for me, having in the corner. I know I can count on you, and that means the world to me. So thank you so much.
Appreciate you, my friend.
All right, take care.